So my advice to the youth is this. We have had a repeat of situations. The first demonstration led the killing of 60 people, reminiscent of what happened in South Africa in 1976, when so many children were killed after the famous Shepherdville thing. We have had more killings in the anniversary, June 25th. My view is that if this government cannot understand the purpose of demonstrations, if this government responds to the demonstrations that take place on Monday by killing the way they did, my request, my advice to the young people is, please, we can't have the same type of struggle. The young people, let them read history and find out. After failing to achieve change using means that is stipulated in the Constitution, what else remains for them to do? That's what they ought to do. We should have no demonstrations. If they kill people on Monday, please, let's have another approach to dealing with this particular regime. My name is Wafula Buke, and you see, to understand the impact of the demos, one has to understand the genesis of those particular demos. And the demos emanated from failure of democracy within our republic. You'll recall that first in the 80s, there was an attempt to introduce a one-party system. Not an attempt, because it happened. After that, there was an attempt to overthrow the government, to challenge that particular new status quo, which legitimized a one-party system of governance. Then, of course, the coup was quashed, and then opposition suppressed. So the struggle went underground. So we experienced the emergence of underground opposition politics led by Mwakenya, December 12th movement, basically underground illegal organizations. So when we come to 90s, thereabout, was it 88? I can't remember. I think 88. We have elections, and Moi decides that it has to be the queuing system. And for him, it was a means by which they could clean the entire political establishment of those they did not trust. So we have an election which rigs out all the sensible people. And they have Moi's version of leaders taking charge. Yeah, and that's how we find now resistance stops being the business of people who wanted fundamental change, and it extends to even liberal elements within the KANU establishment, led by Matiba, Rubia, and many other that kind of thing. So we have now what we call conservatives also seeing that they were being emasculated from politics. So they came on stage and united with the rest of the people and staged what they called the Saba Saba uprising. And I would say that it was important because there was need for us to liberalize the politics of the nation. And as you later on realize, despite the arrest of many leaders, including Raila, Charles Rubia, Matiba, and other people, we find the momentum gathering, and by the time we get the 91 and beyond, at least the realization that there was need for change took a practical phase, which is now compelling the system to give us a multi-party system of government. I want to think that was positive. That was a positive outcome of that particular experience. Yeah. The other implication, of course, is that it also undermined the pursuit for fundamental change, because conservatives from the other side, the KANU wing, came and joined us. And after joining us, of course, now it ceased being an attempt to get socioeconomic justice. Instead, it ended up being a Moi must go kind of business. For them, it was Moi goes and the status quo remains. So the implication of the uprising and and the union of the various political players from the various political ideological divides leads to the dilution of the change that we are looking for. That's another implication.
Yeah. And therefore you've worked.
Yeah, of course demonstrations are uniform. It is a case of people leaving their homes and coming on the streets and trying to communicate by their numbers with the status quo, the government in that case. So in that way, I would say it was similar. But also, this time round, I must say there was a greater input of ideas. Yeah, many learned people, took part. We had Professor Kibwana, we had Maina Kiai, we had many other and many civil organizations. At this point, I must say that at least we had legal organizations in the name of civil society participating and planning overtly. Now, in the 90s, the planning was covert and highly risky. But this time around, there was at least some political space for people to organize. So organization went on till the material day before the state moved in. Yeah, I must say that the legal regimes were better. The legal regime was better in 1997. The other element which I must also mention is that, and where I was involved, is that I was tasked the responsibility of going to Mombasa to organize, instead of demonstrations, but abstention. Yeah, I think we had a trick on them. We knew that Mombasa at that time was a strong Kanu zone. But because people feared riots, we thought in that place, we thought the better thing to do was to show people that there will be trouble till they keep off for purpose of their safety. So I was tasked the responsibility of seeing to it that I ran and in liaison with the IPK, Islamic Party of Kenya, and the National Democratic Party led by Raila Odinga. My task there was to make sure that at least people kept off instead of them coming to town as was happening in Nairobi. So that also was a different trick that we've tried to employ. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe, of course,
what we need is more than the demonstrations, because we have a very difficult situation. You see, in Europe and the civilized world, sexual offense by a head of state leads to the resignation of a head of state. Now, what we have had in this country is killings of an unimaginable scale. One would wish that, in fact, the demonstrations we have on Monday by Sabasaba, on Sabasaba, they're inadequate. We need a greater upheaval. We need a greater upheaval, which can't be even mentioned, maybe comparable to 1982. How can a government, a president, preside over mass killings and all we are doing is just a demonstration? This guy deserves an inversion because we must stop those killings. I want to think that on Sabasaba, the demonstrations we're going to have are less than what we ought to do to protect the lives of our people from a criminal government. Yeah.
And therefore, your advice to the younger generation?
The demos advance the struggle to higher levels. If we have to say that the emergence of, you see, in 1997 led to the introduction of the inter-party parliamentary group meeting, the IPPG deal, which allowed us to mobilize, freely. You simply notified the police and they allowed you to hold a rally. And I think we took full advantage of that. And if you remember in 2001-2, we had Muungano ya Mageuzi. And Muungano ya Mageuzi held rallies countrywide. Actually, I must say that we did the groundwork for the unity of the opposition. That was, we were led by Orengo, and I was some kind of CEO of the movement. So this would not have happened if we didn't have the freedom and the legalized, meetings that we really took advantage of. Now that mobilization creates unity of the opposition and I think unity of the country, which finally gives us a new president in the name of Mwai Kibaki. Now, we could also stretch that, the gains that we got from those demonstrations, to creating an environment for the enactment of a new constitution, which is a product of many years of struggle. And one of those forms of struggle is mass action, which has helped us. Yeah.
You have seen the younger generation.
Yes.
The name Gen Z.
We are proud of them. I think that wherever Dedan Kimathi is proud of them. And they have actually done better than what my generation did. I ask them to continue reading the game and understanding it. We should be able to do, if what we do can't work, they should read history and accept to go to another level. I don't know what that level is, but you can't keep confronting the state with stones and getting killed. Let them find out whether there's any other way they can engage the system that can get them to hear or feel the pain of resistance from them. Yeah.
Do you know these the head leaders like in our realm? This time they're saying they don't have a leader, but they're engaging the government in demonstration. Maybe is there where there's a different maybe gap between your days and the current?
You see, our days we had no space to demonstrate, and the state was also brutal. You remember Nail Sabasaba, many died. For us, our readings of the game in the 90s, in the 80s, was such that there was need for us to confront state violence with revolutionary violence. So we went and looked for military training. I speak as a trained person. Actually, I would say that at the time when when the system existed, this country did not need an additional teacher or doctor or anything. It needed a person or persons who had the capacity and the training to engage the instruments of coercion of the state. So I went to the relevant institution at that time for learning was military training. I went and trained because the system could not accept. I want to think that this system that we have in mind, the government that we have in place, is telling us to go back to the libraries and read and understand how do you relate with a government that refuses to hold an honest conversation with citizens, instead deploys, policemen to kill them. I think it's giving our people a very serious challenge. I am wondering whether stones are adequate, because at this rate, people need to think, find out what is it that exists in our history that advises us on how to deal with this particular regime.